Hi, I'm GM Matthew Sadler.
And I'm WIM Natasha Regan. Welcome AlphaZero fans to this video, which is on the English opening. It's a lovely positional game by AlphaZero this time. Now we're aware that people are starting to have to go into self-isolation due to the coronavirus, and you'll need something to do. So what better to do than watch a nice slow positional game by AlphaZero. In the English, it gets a fianchetto position, and Stockfish tries to neutralize that by playing the pawn center c6 and d5. AlphaZero plays slowly, gets the two bishops, and so is happy to exchange off into an endgame. And later within the endgame, it exchanges then one of the bishops to get an opposite colour bishop ending with much better pawn structure, which it then proceeds to build up advantages and win.
Yeah, it's a really good example of AlphaZero's fantastic endgame technique. Really impressive game. So let's take a look at it. Okay, let's get into this game. AlphaZero is white and Stockfish is black.
This is a previously unpublished game. The only move that was given was AlphaZero's 1c4, and after that both AlphaZero and Stockfish are on their own.
So e5 and g3, AlphaZero's favourite move order in this position, and actually also the move order that's recommended by Mihai Marin, one of the big English experts in his book. So c6, quite a popular move at the moment, actually, just aiming to combat that fianchettoed bishop by playing d7 to d5. And so this is a very common reaction as well, just d4. I mean, the drawback to c7 to c6 is that the knight can't come to c6. So a queen on d4, although it's been developed very early, it's not exposed in the same way as if the knight had come to c6. So this is all very typical theory. Knight f3, bishop e7, and AlphaZero plays castles. And this is a slightly unusual move. I mean, white often plays the, actually they end up being isolated queen's pawn positions with takes. Yeah, I mean, it's a sort of a Tarrasch sort of position, but yeah, black gains a tempo with knight c6. White has to decide where to put the queen. So generally these things tend to be sort of okay for black, although it's, you know, obviously a very complicated position. AlphaZero just prefers to play castles. And Stockfish takes the opportunity to to release the tension immediately and plays d takes c4. So and AlphaZero plays queen takes d8, bishop takes d8, and knight d2. So yeah, it's quite a pleasant endgame basically, where, you know, white can press without risk. I mean, here in this game, Stockfish played castles.
We're actually, at the end of this video, going to look at another move for Stockfish, which is c3.
That's right. This was played by Stockfish in another game. It was also played in a Grandmaster game as well. But yeah, AlphaZero showed quite a nice way of gaining an advantage there as well. So after castles, knight takes c4, knight d7. AlphaZero decided to cash in its its advantage in development and advantage in space for the two bishops. So played knight d6, bishop c7, rook d1, knight b6, and now takes and takes.
So now AlphaZero has the two bishops.
Indeed. So that's a nice nominal advantage. I mean, these are quite typical structures where white's got the two bishops and black's got a queenside pawn majority, but the pawns on a7, b7 and c6. But faced with the two bishops, it's not easy to get them moving. So that advantage is kind of nullified by the position. I think
AlphaZero thinks it's got a 60.6 expected score here.
Exactly. So AlphaZero likes its position. I mean, you can definitely see that. I mean, white's key problem in this position is actually how to get its rook on a1 into the game. And and also where to place this dark squared bishop, because you can place it on all sorts of squares, but then it just gets hit by a knight. Or gets threatened with exchange, and well, that's one thing you don't particularly want to do right off the bat, is to exchange off your advantage of the two bishops. So AlphaZero plays quite a subtle move here that somehow I think Stockfish doesn't quite appreciate. So it plays this move King F1. And
so I suppose it's a waiting move in a way.
It's a waiting strengthening move, that's right, just protecting that pawn on E2. And here Stockfish plays knight BD5.
And then AlphaZero is happy with that move because that then allows bishop D2, and the knight's already committed itself, so then can't meet that with knight C4.
Exactly. I mean, this is the key point. You're just looking for a temporary safe square for the bishop so that it can't be exchanged. And if you played bishop D2 straight away, then actually this move, well, you could play rook E8, king F1, and then knight C4 would be rather awkward. If I go bishop C3, I can go knight D5, and it's basically what I was saying, that this bishop just gets hit by everything. The bishop will be exchanged. You'll get rid of white's advantage of the two bishops, which is a definite gain. And I mean, there's some quite complicated lines with if you try and justify your idea all the same. Something like rook b7, but there are moves like bishop b6, for example, and this rook on b7 is actually quite awkward. Either knight d6 or knight a5 could actually help to trap the rook. So it's unnecessarily complicated, you say. So this move of AlphaZero, just king f1. Waits for black to play. I mean, rook fe8 would have been the best move for black here. Also waiting, keeping the knight on b6 flexible. But yeah, Stockfish played this very reasonable move, knight bd5, and now.
And here, AlphaZero's rating of the position has gone up, so it now thinks it's got a 65.6% expected score.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I found really fascinating about the game was that I mean, you notice it in the games of the great positional players like Magnus Carlsen or Karpov, that their position seems to improve, and you've no idea, why. What did you do wrong? But it's moments like this actually where you play a move that looks generally good, but one that enables white to get a little plan just executed. And if you see what AlphaZero does in the next few moves, you'll see why the bishop going to E1 is was such a useful place to put it. And actually, it's a very common idea in these types of pawn structures. It comes up a lot also in semi-Slav games or Slav games, and it's definitely an idea worth remembering. We're not going to leave the bishop on E1 forever. That one's going to come out later. But just to develop the rest of your pieces, keep it safe from exchange. It's a very good square in these type of structures. So rook E8, bishop E1, G6, rook C1. There we are. The bishop's moved from C1, so the rook can get active. And now AlphaZero starts with a very, very nice plan. Essentially, for the rest of the game, AlphaZero's very concentrated purpose is to weaken the light squares. Because, of course, the light squares, well, it's got a light square bishop, Stockfish hasn't. So the more the light squares are weakened, the more the power of the piece it has and Stockfish doesn't increases. And so it plays this fantastic move, rook d3. Where is that rook going? It's going to b3. And what is the idea? The idea, white wants to force black to play b6, because then afterwards the pawn on c6 will be weakened. The pawn on c6 may have to move up to c5, and then the light squared bishop is mighty. So black, for the moment, avoids that. So AlphaZero regroups its knight a little bit. This knight is very nice, aiming for a5 or d6. It's a very typical square for the knight in these structures again. Knight g4. So Stockfish goes to exchange it. Nothing to be done about that. But now look at AlphaZero's rooks, beautifully placed. We had a game called, I think, Rampaging Rooks in our book, and well, these rooks are very similar. This rook's got a beautiful place on here, and this rook is free along the fourth rank to go either to the queenside or to the kingside. So, AlphaZero now starts to creep forward, just trying to gain space.
And you'll recognise this move again, h4.
Indeed. And this little tactical trick. If bishop takes f6, then rook f8. So that enables Stockfish to get its king developed. But AlphaZero has got its pawn on h5. And actually, strange enough, in this position, AlphaZero doesn't try and put it on h6. Because what it's trying to do is it's trying to weaken the light squares. And obviously, pawn on h5 is what's required for that. Bishop to e2. Again, these are just very nice multi-purpose moves. You know, this bishop can now also come to c4, you know, unpleasant diagonal. So just you know, very, very nice move. Rook h4, just threatening to come in on the h file. So
and all the time AlphaZero is increasing the pressure. It must be hard for black to play this kind of position.
Well, for a human, it's impossible. I suppose Stockfish just takes it quite calmly, but actually, in this position, you'd actually say, you know, black cracks because this moves bishop a5, teases the rook on d8, and here Stockfish replies with b6.
So another pawn has moved from a light square onto a dark square.
Exactly, and that after this, then actually black's got very little chance now to keep control of its light squares, and you'll see how. And AlphaZero's now thinking it's got a very, very good position. You know, it's got a 77.8% expected score. You know, it's just been rising steadily the more weaknesses it creates. So rook c4. Stockfish moves the pawn up to c5, and now AlphaZero carries out a very nice plan to really just fix those queenside pawns completely. So it goes b3, one pair of rooks gets exchanged, rook a4, and Stockfish replies with a5. Otherwise, its rook would be tied down to the defense of the a pawn.
And now you see how the two white pawns on the queen side are holding up all three of those black queenside pawns. Especially
after this move, a4. That's really, I mean, essentially white has an extra pawn now because, yeah, I mean, as Natasha said, those three queenside pawns are being held back by pawns on a4 and b3. So that's not going to become any sort of queenside majority, whereas white's still got a very free majority on the king side. And of course, just thinking the ending, you know, that's a beautiful path for the king to attack the b6 pawn, you know, e2, d3, c4, b5. So it's, yeah, I mean, what is AlphaZero's next idea? Well, actually, what it would really like, it would like black to play the move g6 to g5, just to completely, you know, complete the light square domination. And it plays around a little bit, just a few quiet moves, and here there's this threat of unpleasant threat of g4 to g5. Here, Stockfish decides that it has to play g5.
So just one pawn left on a light square.
Yeah, and that one's...
And now they're all on dark squares.
Exactly. So, I mean, really, black's position is just like Swiss cheese. I mean, the only thing that's keeping black's position alive, actually, or at least keeping white's pieces at bay, is the knight on d6, which is the only, you know, piece that that can really defend a lot of light squares effectively. So you can imagine what AlphaZero's plan is. As always, it always aims to, you know, swap off the active pieces, the useful pieces, and leave the opponent only with useless ones. And so that knight should be feeling a little bit nervous.
Yeah, as Fishy Anand said, the way to play with the two bishops is to get an advantage by exchanging one of them off for the knight.
Exactly, that was something he said to me after we played a game. Actually, that was it was a game where I was just a little bit better, but he had the two bishops, and then he swapped off one of my knights with his bishop and neutralized everything completely. But you'd heard that before.
I'd heard it before. Well, I think it was in a book I read as a child.
Okay, it was completely new to me. I thought it was a wonderful insight when Bishy said it.
I think it must be either Fred Rainfeld or Cecil Purdy. It was one of these books that I read. I think I was visiting Australia at the time, and I just spent the whole holiday instead of seeing the sights, just with my head in a chess book.
Okay, well, in any case, it's a very good thing to remember. It's a good technique. Now, what a very typical move from AlphaZero here as well. It likes putting a diagonal piece next to a king just to restrict it. Stockfish takes a chance to exchange off a pawn, but what you notice is that well, it swings and roundabouts really. It exchanges off a pawn, which obviously increases the drawing percentage slightly, but it also opens a file, so it gives white more chance to get in. And here Stockfish takes the decision to well, actually it has to cover the b6 pawn, plays knight c5, and here AlphaZero doesn't think for a second and
exchanges that knight off. And here AlphaZero really likes its position. It's got a 93.4% expected score.
Yeah, so essentially, I mean, it really thinks it's it's winning basically. So which is quite impressive. I mean, I like white's position a lot, and it's clear that black's just got to wait passively. But I really wasn't sure how AlphaZero was going to break through here. But the breakthrough that it's got in mind is very unusual, but excellent. Excellent to remember, because I think this type of position, you could easily get it in your own games. I've had similar positions like this, and understanding how you actually break through, this sort of defense from black, even against a defender like Stockfish, is a useful skill to remember. So bishop d3, bishop e5, bishop c4, so just blockades, and now the king comes in. And you notice how easy it is for white to play its pieces into black's position. I mean, there's no resistance, and that's the power of the opposite coloured bishops. And I think that's what AlphaZero seems to like so much about opposite coloured bishops. I mean, we did a whole chapter on it in Game Changer. It's just the fact that you have unobstructed access to the opponent's position, because he just can't block you on that colour. So the king moves in, the rook, and now AlphaZero has to work out how are you going to break through. And for me, the breakthrough comes at a quite unexpected place, in actual fact. So this move f3. I mean, I was expecting f4 as the break, but I was really wondering how that was going to work. But AlphaZero gets its pieces just perfect as it wants. Rook on a6, beautiful square there.
Because it's attacking like two weak pawns at once, so the one on f6 and the one on a5. And
exactly.
Tying black up.
And sort of looking across the 6th rank, which is actually quite important, because here it plays e4, which looks quite weird in actual fact, because well, how are you going to break through if you're putting all your pawns on light squares? Well, this is the answer: e5. That is the break that AlphaZero wanted. And the beautiful idea is if bishop takes e5, then rook a5, and this a pawn is impossible to stop. The bishop just doesn't have any diagonals to get back and cover it, so the rook just goes to a8, and you just move the pawn all the way up, and you'll just queen that. So Stockfish played f takes e5, but now just with well, some very simple tactics here. Rook takes g5. Discovered check. And I mean, black's now got 4 isolated pawns, and of course white's, well, this h6 pawn is going to be very difficult to defend, because the rook can got all these discovered checks against the black king. So essentially what you see is that black just cannot keep a grip of its pawns, and obviously the a pawn is the one that it has to defend first, but it just cannot keep hold of the rest of its pawns. So it gives up this one in order to connect its bishop and rook again. But now again, it's just having real problems defending the a pawn on the h pawn. So it tries to defend the a pawn. But now we've got another nasty little idea. If rook takes d5, then rook a6 check wins the rook. So Stockfish feels compelled again to give up the a pawn.
It's zugzwang, that position was.
Lots of zugzwangs there. That's right. So and then, well, the rest of the game is pretty easy. The pawn just moves up all the way. Bishop comes over, and now AlphaZero is just going to go for the h pawn. I mean, at the very least, you could just go to rook h8, play king g6, and then sacrifice the exchange, and then queen the h pawn. So Stockfish played a few more moves, but at some stage decided that it had seen enough, about here, I think, and resigned. White's just going to win very easily by creating a passed pawn on the king side. So quite a long game, but I thought it was very, very instructive. You know, I really enjoyed the first of all I think the moment. Let's just whiz back to a few key moments. The moment just in the opening, with this subtlety with King F1 and the way it's reflected when you know, Stockfish plays a good but, you know, maybe not most active move, knight bd5, how AlphaZero's evaluation is reflected directly in that, you know, that it's managed to get its piece deployment as it wants, and the whole way the rooks get active, you know, along the third and the fourth ranks, I think is you know, very, very, very nice. I mean, it's very typical endgame technique. And then the whole thing about just a very concentrated way of trying to get light square weaknesses, increase the scope of your light squared bishop, and then swap off you know, the black piece that defends the light squares, the knight, and then just invade. You know, it's just a very smooth and very logical way of playing. I was really you know, really very impressed with that.
Just started looking at tactics now we've got this on the board. Can you do like bishop g3 and knight e3?
Well, that would cost you 2 bishops, I think. So yeah. I think that would probably be quite nasty. And yeah, I mean, there's a few other, might be a few other problems in there as well. But what I wanted to have a look at actually was I wanted to have a look at the opening again, because we promised that we'd show another game that AlphaZero and Stockfish played, or at least part of it. Because here Stockfish also played the move c4 to c3, which ruins White's pawn structure in a way, White's queenside pawn structure. It's quite typical in Catalan English types of positions. Although it's a weakened pawn structure, you do open the B file for the white rook, which means that the B7 pawn is attacked, which can be harder to develop the bishop on c8. And also you give the a3 square to the white bishop, you know, where it attacks d6. So AlphaZero makes quite a bit of use of all these things. I think, let's have a look. Was this the, I think rook e8 was the Stockfish game in this position. a4, knight a6, bishop a3, bishop e7, takes, and e4. And well, you can just see AlphaZero just gaining space quite nicely here. Knight d6, rook e1, knight e8, e5, rook d8, knight f5. Very, very nice position for white. I mean, AlphaZero was pretty confident about this. In actual fact, maybe it's a game that we'll show some other time in its completion, because the ending got quite thrilling in the end, but Stockfish defended beautifully and managed to hold the draw. But in principle, I think you know, this whole plan that AlphaZero did, just playing a4, bishop a3, and then expanding on the in the centre, gaining space like that, that just looked rather awkward for black. So there we are. That's our look at this variation of the English. We've got a few more English videos planned, just to show more stuff that AlphaZero plays against the English. But just remember, if you haven't subscribed to our channel,
remember to subscribe.
And if you
buy the book,
well, especially if you're cooped up at home and need something to study.
Oh yeah, it'll take you a good 2 weeks to get through that one.
It's a gorgeous book. So yeah, but anyway, you know, keep watching, and we'll be along with quite a few more videos in the coming weeks and months.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks very much.